Welcome to the Talking Archive. My name is Josh Jacobs, and it's an honor to be talking with Randy Merkin. He's the author of the just-released book, Behind the Glass, Stories from a Sports Radio Producer. Most recently, he was the operations manager and executive producer for ESPN 1000 in Chicago. And Randy, thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure, Josh. How you doing?
Good. And now you're based in Chicago yourself. My parents are from there, and I was there about, 4 months ago. The goal was just to have pizza, and we went to Pequod's Pizza that time. And
fantastic.
It was great. The service and the people were there. It was just so awesome. The people were just so nice. The servers there, I just could not believe it.
Yeah, it's a great place. There's so many different great pizza places and different style pizza places here in Chicago that I think the pizza that gets the biggest bum rap is like the deep dish or stuffed, because most people think it's just too rich and they just can't handle it. But I love it. But there's this. I grew up in Flossmoor, and there was a place that, unfortunately, they're not on. And then I live in the northern suburbs now, but it's called the Rillios, and it was like after every Little League baseball game, somehow we always ended up at Aurelio's. And, everyone has a place, right, that they just love. And Pequod's is fantastic.
So Aurelio's, is that still there? Or
it is. The original is in Homewood, and Joe Aurelio, who owns it, has opened up like 3 or 4 more chains. But unfortunately, nothing up here in the northern suburbs, and most of them are down in the southern or western suburbs.
Well, it makes it worth the drive, doesn't it?
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, here in Southern California, it's not known for its pizzas, but there is a place in Eagle Rock, which is between Pasadena and Burbank. It's called Casa Bianca Pizza Pie, and the family that started it, the husband and wife died a couple of years ago, but their kids now run it. It's been around since 1955, and the family that started it was originally from Chicago, but ironically, it's a thinner crust, but it's not New York style. It's something completely different. And there's pictures of celebrities there, including a picture of Ed Asner with a full head of hair.
Wow. Now that's going back a ways.
It is, yeah. They got like Vic Tayback is on the wall, Jay Leno, Ray Romano, and then, of course, a bunch of local news personalities that are only known in Southern California. Sure.
That's great. Yeah, there's a bunch of places like that in Chicago. Pizza's the best. You can't go wrong with pizza.
No, you can't. And I'm looking forward to being there next time to try a place called my dad's brother, my uncle Chris, had recommended a place called The Grinder, which has pizza pot pie.
Yes. I've heard of it as well. I've never had it, but I've heard of it. I've walked by it before, but I've never had it.
Well, there's something. Let's see who gets there first.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Now, in addition to growing up, you said you played Little League baseball growing up. What inspired you to get into radio?
I have just had a love affair with sports basically since I was a kid, and I had 2 older brothers who were already in radio. I had a great high school which had a unbelievable radio program, like state of the art. I would say my high school radio station is better than some professional radio stations.
Wow.
And, I realized right away from the beginning that I wasn't going to be, especially the high school I went to, which was very competitive and sent a lot of kids off to college to play athletics. I just wasn't that good. So I wanted to be involved still. So I figured the next best thing was to follow both my brothers' paths. And I worked at the high school radio station all 4 years, WHFH. And, I was the first one to really, I pushed hard for like junior and senior year. Our football team was really good, and we broadcast every game, home and away. And I started, my brother started a sports talk show, and I did that. I would get myself credentialed for games, Bulls games, Cubs convention. I took advantage of every opportunity I had in high school to get experience and make myself better. And that was basically it. How some people are always like, boy, I don't know what to do. But when I was a little kid, when I was in high school, even freshman, sophomore year, I knew what I wanted to do. Like, my dad always was pushing against us doing it, but I loved radio. I still love radio, but it's obviously changed so much. But that's basically it. I just have a love affair with sports, and since I couldn't play it, at the highest level, I figured I might as well work at it as a broadcaster at the highest level.
Oh, definitely. Who are some of your favorite sportscasters, whether they be from Chicago or nationwide?
Growing up, Harry Caray, was before that Jack Brickhouse a little bit, but for some reason, my sweet spot of Cubs fandom was with Harry. And then, a little bit after that, but Harry was, he was either on radio or TV, and he just, people made fun of him because he was, this Bud man and all this, but he knew more about the game. Like, you could hear, during the game, he knew everything that was going on, even towards the end. Sure, he had his moments at the end where he just wasn't really with it anymore, but Harry for sure. Nationally, Marv Albert, broadcast every Bulls playoff game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was, I can remember him, Paxson for 3, so.
Yes!
Yes, good. Yeah, I mean, and Costas calls, Jordan's final game. I mean, obviously Bob Costas is fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't have, how everyone's I grew up, with transistor radio listening to this guy on the radio. I don't really have anyone like that. I mean, Pat Hughes is great, but, I was, when my first radio job was in Platteville, Wisconsin, and we used to run the Brewers games, so I would be, running Pat Hughes and Bob Uecker. That's before he was with the Cubs. But I don't really have a local guy that I'm just gaga. That was growing up. I'm I wanted to be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to be in the industry. I interned at WGN Radio, worked with Wayne Larrabee, who's it might be Wayne. Wayne Larrabee is so unbelievable on football. And Tom Brenneman was there as well. He was the Cubs announcer at the time, and Chuck Swirsky, who's now the Bulls announcer. So, but I mean, the main guy I can think of, if you say, hey, one guy, I would say it was Harry growing up. I just loved Harry Caray. I thought he was, he got it. He got it before anyone else got it. That it wasn't just about baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was about entertainment, and he was the highest level, baseball and entertainment.
And he was with several teams. It's kind of hard to believe because these days we think Harry Caray and the Cubs, but he was also with the White Sox as well.
And Cardinals.
That's right, yeah. The cross-state rivalry, if you will.
Right. There's some great story, and I don't know the exact story, but I think it was when he was with the Cardinals, and they were playing an exhibition game in Memphis, and he went back to his hotel room, and he got a call, and it was Elvis Presley on the other line. And saying, what are you doing? And Harry's in my hotel room. He's well, coming out drinking with us. And Harry and Elvis went out that night drinking. So, everyone loved Harry. I mean, he was a Bud man, right? I mean,
mm-hmm.
the commercials and, I interviewed him when I was in high school.
Wow.
I was, I told you I had a credential at the Cubs convention. I was so nervous. And I went up to him. I'm this 16-year-old kid with this, high voice still. And I'm I went up and asked him, and he said, sure, sit down. And he's where are you from, young man? I said, WHFH. And he was I made it to the big time. So he got it. He understood and, made it real easy for me to do the interview. So, yeah, I mean, he'd be the one guy I would mention for sure.
Do you still have a copy of that interview?
No, unfortunately, I don't. It's it might be I have all these old cassette tapes that aren't labeled, of course.
Mm.
So I'd have to take hours to go through each tape. There's also a tape of when my high school football team, we went to East St. Louis Senior, and they had won 50-something straight playoff games, and we went there and beat them. And it was on a last-second interception that we won the game, and I've been trying to find that call too. But no, I don't think I don't think I have that Harry interview anymore. But I wish I did. Trust me, I wish I had it still.
Oh, you never know. I have a former coworker, Jim Governale was his name, and he went through some archives in his dad's house and found one of the reels of one of Sandy Koufax's perfect games that they thought was lost. And so he was able to, I think he met Vin Scully before that, but got to meet Vin again when that event happened. And so that was just, we at work were just all giddy about it. To one of the greatest pitchers of all time, and he only played about 11 seasons, but boy,
crazy.
Yeah,
he was so good.
He definitely was. And when you first worked in radio, did you have an internship first and then get paid, or was it pretty much right into the thick of things?
No, so I started as an intern. I interned at WLS AM in Chicago. that was more like just, get experience. And it was kind of a crazy summer because I worked for both the AM and they have an FM too, and they switched formats, I want to say, that summer and fired everyone one day. So that was my kind of intro to radio, like real life, and then the best internship I had was at WGN Radio. I was there for 2 terms. They kept me on like throughout the whole I was there over the summer. After I graduated, was from Wisconsin, and then I stayed for the whole Bears season. And they really let you be hands-on. They had the Bears back then, and each week you had to interview an opponent player. So I originally was setting him up for Wayne to do them, because he was the voice of the Bears, and he basically told me, you do them. So I interviewed like Barry Sanders. I don't know if Brett Favre was at the Packers yet. I don't think Brett Favre was there yet, but like Jerome Bettis. I would ask. This is back when there wasn't a saturation of media, so it was WGN Radio holds a lot of power. So I would ask for the biggest name from the opposing team, and I got him. Like, I don't think anyone ever turned me down, and I would interview him, cut up the interviews, and Chuck Swirsky did Bears pre and post, and I would make a rundown for him, and he would play all the cuts. Sometimes he'd give me a mention saying I did the interview, but that was a great internship. I mean, it was like just doing so much, and it was a lot of fun. I couldn't wait to go to work. I think I was there like 4 days a week or something like that, but it was an absolute blast.
Where did you go to college back then?
I went to Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm a Badger.
Yeah, there we go. It must have been pretty close to Chicago, or how many hours away was it from the Windy City?
Like 2.5, probably 3-hour drive, because I lived in the southern suburbs growing up. Mm-hmm. So it was like a 3-hour drive. It wasn't bad, though. It was good. Oh. Like, if you needed to go home, you could. And it was, I always say it was like the best 4 years. I mean, it was, made some lifelong friends, had a ton of experience. Oddly enough, like, not a great communication school, which is, just a tip to everyone out there. You don't have to go like to Syracuse or Missouri or, to get into the industry. But, I had an internship my senior year there at a TV station, and I did I just found like this local cable station that would broadcast all the high school games. So I would broadcast a lot of basketball games, a lot of baseball games, not football for some reason, but basketball and baseball. I don't think I even got paid, but I just loved it so much I didn't care. So. It was Wisconsin was awesome. Just unfortunately, the athletics weren't very good when I was there, but it was still an unbelievable experience.
That's great. We're talking with Randy Merkin. This is the Talking Archive. My name is Josh Jacobs. Randy is the former operations manager and executive producer for ESPN 1000, also with 101 Sports, one of the founders of that radio network, which eventually became the Sporting News. And he's also the author of the new book, Behind the Glass, Stories from a Sports Radio Producer. And next time we'll find out how Randy was inspired to write the book.